This is Blind Like Me.
Hello, everyone.
Interviews, information, and reviews related to living with a vision disability. Your host is Tim Black. Tim has been visually impaired since birth. He's been in radio for 30 years and also hosts the podcast Inside Today's Country. Tim has never let his lack of vision stand in his way.
Welcome to another edition of Blind Like Me. It is Tim Black, and we are hanging out with a lady who I got an email from, who I think is very interesting because she has a very interesting career. And it has to do with dogs and babies. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Her name is Jennifer Shryock. I got that right, did I?
You did.
She practicing, I tell you. All the way from North Carolina. Welcome to Blind Like Me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And how did you find us?
I actually found you guys from TikTok. I saw Caitlin who was on and thought, wow, that's cool. Let me get in touch.
Yeah, and she was a great person to talk to.
Absolutely.
Super neat lady. Well, let's find out a little bit about Jennifer. You are also visually impaired, much like myself. And you've had quite an interesting career that you have developed, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But let's talk a bit about what Jennifer's life has been like as a visually impaired person. You're someone who has really not kind of shown your vision to a lot of people, you were telling me. So talk to me about life with you.
Yeah. So, I think growing up, it was always, it was a struggle in classrooms for sure. But whenever I could, I tried, I think I learned to hide my visual impairment.
And why is that?
I think just the vulnerability, you want to fit in, you don't want to ask for extra help. I realized as an adult how much I compensated as a kid,
right.
And how there's a lot of undoing of that. Like embracing that certain things are a struggle and are difficult, and it's really okay to ask for help, and it's okay to use tools to meet my needs. I think it was a vulnerability. I have albinism, and so that made me stand out quite a bit already. So I was one who wanted to kind of shrink into the background and not be seen.
Right. And
you know what it's like. Sometimes if you ask someone to help you read the menu that's at someplace, they speak very loudly sometimes people don't, and so I learned, forget it. I just want to order a hamburger. I know they're always there. I'll order a hamburger. I'll always get vanilla ice cream. It's always on the menu.
Right.
Safe bets, right? So I learned really, it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized how much of that I was doing to avoid more attention being drawn to myself.
Right.
Yeah.
And now, as being an adult, how has that, you're kind of going the other direction now?
Yeah, trying.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I do a lot of traveling. And so going in and out of the airport and going different places, it's been such a growing learning experience for me to kind of embrace my visual impairment and kind of see how to work around that, how to make it a game. Like, there's certain patterns and strategies I feel like I use as soon as I step off of the plane and I'm in, say, transferring flights or something, there's different things that I find are helpful. It's interesting to me, like when you talk to someone and say, oh, you're going through this airport, one airport over another, someone might say, oh, that's a really great airport. It's easy.
Right.
And I think, oh, it's going to be a breeze. And I walk in and it's nothing but glaring, shiny floors and windows everywhere. And I cannot see at all,
right.
But for the sighted person, it was a smaller airport. It was smaller airports are tough because they're not as accommodating.
So what are the strategies you use?
Yeah. Stepping off the airport, you're going to, when you get into, say, you're doing a change, looking around, taking a breath and just looking around and observing the signs, allowing my eyes to train on the signs of that airport and getting a feel for what it is you're going to be targeting visually. So what you're looking for. So usually whether it's, I think Atlanta is like gray and big black letters, like, and also looking around for the helpers, looking around for people what color shirts are they wearing? Who are the staff there to kind of help? I have to say, I love Atlanta. It's one of my favorite airports to go through because it is extraordinarily accommodating.
Really?
Signs are huge. People are there to help you. I don't know. And I've learned to say, yeah, I can't, you can tell me it's down there or look at this. Do you see that? No, don't.
Yeah.
But again, just taking a breath, looking for the patterns of the signage, I think is a really important thing. And now, I was telling you earlier, I am so forever grateful because I've also learned to relax in the moment, not panic. I think it's easy to kind of go, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. But having my phone and being able to take a picture, because they'll all say to you when you get off a flight, look at the board for your connection.
Yeah.
Okay. That does me no good. That's a pretty board with lots of lights and everything. Now I can take an image of it. And I can blow it up, or I can ease into it and take my time. So I've learned to kind of allow those accommodations, and our phones have been, oh my goodness, what a gift.
You think about it when we were talking earlier about being back in school and so forth like that. The technology wasn't there, obviously, when in the day. And nowadays, as I said to you before we started recording, the fact that I think, blind people should be the spokespeople for Apple's accessibility, because every person that I have interviewed on this in the last couple of years, we've all got one of these in our hands. We're all, and I'm holding one of them right now. We all have one, and it has made a life difference. Have you tried any different apps on your phone as well for accessibility?
I have over the years. I've done some magnification things, but honestly, I go back to just what they provide.
Okay.
I found it pretty helpful. So I haven't gotten too handy with too many different apps. But I would love to learn about some.
Yeah,
so.
Well, there's definitely a couple, and I think one of the ones that we've talked about on this podcast before is Seeing AI, which is
I remember hearing, and I did look at that.
Yeah, you should use that one. It's probably one of the best ones that I think I've ever used, and every time I turn around, somebody else is suggesting it. You're a mom of 4 of kids, and how old are your kids?
24, 23, 19, and 11.
My goodness, you're a busy lady then.
Yeah.
What's life been like raising 4 kids as being visually impaired? How's that worked out?
It's definitely had its challenges. I can't drive, and in North Carolina, you really need to drive. You really need to have places. So I am not able to drive, and so that definitely allowed for my husband to be, he was at every OBGYN visit, he was at every pediatrician visit, he was at everything, so because he was the, main driver and very active father, in a way that was a benefit.
Right.
We always did everything together, but it was frustrating not to be able to just throw the kids in the car and go to the park, or, I'm not as comfortable in stores as my husband is. I find them very overstimulating visually. My husband does the food shopping. That's not my gig. And, just those kinds of things. My son played year-round baseball, and, for many reasons, that was very difficult. It was always extraordinarily sunny, hot, and very hard for me to see anything. I mean, they're all in uniforms and look the same.
Trust me, my kid played soccer, and I'm like, yeah, good job, well done.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it was great. I mean, I did like when he had night games, because I actually could see the ball. If it wasn't it was helpful, but it was hard. That was a little difficult, but my husband was good about telling me sort of what's going on. And you got, you learned over time.
Yep.
It was many years of baseball. You learn. So that was something, but, I've taken the wrong picture of who I thought was my kid at ceremonies and stuff, different things, because your eye is trained for, you think you got it down, and someone else comes up and has very curly hair or something. So that's happened. There's a lot of a lot of things, I think that it's impacted, but on the other sense, in many ways, I've always tried to make it a not event. I think even a couple weeks ago, I had a situation, we were in Charlotte, and my son has an apartment there, and we haven't really gotten a chance to walk around town.
Right.
And I have very little depth perception to begin with.
Okay.
It's just not there. And so walking around town I've got very thick glasses that throw my balance off a little bit sometimes when the lighting is a certain way.
Okay.
But then you throw on a mask, and a mask that fogs up your glasses, like, no way. So I actually had to just say, you know what? I really can't do that.
Right.
That's really going to be not enjoyable for me and hard because, well, it's hard to see. And I do find,
right.
So, but it's rare that I would say that, I don't like to have my vision stand in the way.
Right. Right.
So that was a little frustrating, but I'm learning that sometimes that's okay too.
Yeah.
Why I don't need to go through a situation, and be completely uncomfortable. Nobody wants that. And sometimes it's totally fine to say, you know what, that really isn't going to be the best situation for me.
How have you dealt with, obviously talking about no depth perception, that is one of the biggest challenges for visually impaired and blind people right now, is COVID-19 and staying 2 meters apart from everybody. How have you dealt with all of this that we've been going through?
Yeah, that's been challenging. I will say that being able to not seeing people's whole faces is even more challenging. If there's several people, I can't see who's talking. I can't read the eyes at all.
Right.
And the other thing that I'm finding very challenging with the COVID is these shields that are up. No one, I went in someplace, they're clear, and I don't see it. I don't necessarily see the shield. So some of the accommodations that are being required for COVID, it's different in every location, right? So the X's are going to be in different spots on the floor where you're supposed to stand. And people are very, very impatient. I don't necessarily see it. I'm not stupid. I just can't see it. Right. And again, because it's the visual impairment is not something that makes it obvious I have a disability or I might have a tough time seeing that. People get impatient sometimes, which is a little frustrating. And that's one of the reasons I have actually considered and probably will be using a cane, is so that it's an identifier.
Well, that was going to be my next question is have you decided to go with even an ID cane just to not necessarily, it doesn't need to be the long one, but just an ID cane. And I personally have carried one for years, and it just, you know what, it makes the world just so much easier for the fact that people now know that you have a visual impairment. 99% of the time they won't see the cane, but at least it's there and it's in your hand, right?
Yes. Yes.
So it
exactly.
might help you out. How have your kids? I'm going to go back to them just a little bit here. How did the kids take? When did they realize that mom couldn't see too well?
I think. We always talked about it, but I don't. And I would have difficulty going over their schoolwork, sometimes things like that. Now again, it's easier with the phone. I can take a picture of it. But. And I can't see their computers, different things. I think they're still learning too. Again, I was a pretty good master of hiding it.
Oh, okay.
And I think I really didn't let my guard down because I always tried to, try to find a way and compensate.
Right.
So I think even my family, my siblings aren't aware of what I can and cannot see.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think it just became something that, for me, it was easier just to say, yeah, okay, I can see that, versus, to address it.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay. You have a very interesting career, and one of the things that we've talked about in the past on this podcast is the fact that the unemployment rate for visually impaired and blind people in both Canada and the U.S. and around the world is very, very high. But you created a career for yourself that you didn't have to drive. Let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me what it is.
Well, I am the founder of Family Paws Parent Education. So I'm a certified dog behavior consultant. I specialize in dog and baby toddler safety and dynamics. And I created this program. I started my business in 2002, and I started licensing my program in 2005. And we have educators all over the world,
Really?
who I do online training with to learn about dog body language and about what to look for signs. Sounds kind of funny that someone who's got a visual impairment is observing and reading dog body language, but I honestly think that because I tune into like the whole picture very quickly,
Right.
for shapes and generalizations, I actually pick up on things that a lot of sighted people don't,
Okay.
and a lot faster. I think it's just, I don't know how to explain that. Whether it's feeling, intuitiveness, I don't know. But, I often found that even in like high school when I refused to wear my contacts or glasses, I would be able to identify people in the crowd by the way they moved, by their shape. Before I had this career, I was a teacher and I had a classroom of kids, and
Okay.
my visual memory was really, really strong. And I didn't realize how my mind and my eyes work like that until one time I got a new computer.
Okay.
And trying to set that sucker up where everything was out of the normal place,
Sure.
I realized, holy cow, I'm memorizing so much
Right.
versus seeing. So anyway, it's kind of a funny thing. I don't know if that was just basic for everybody, other people with vision, if they found that frustration too. But I realized that I was memorizing like shapes versus actually reading things. So when I got a new computer and everything was different,
Yep.
it became clear I couldn't see it.
That's all right. The memory is right. We got to try to memorize things. I do the same thing. I memorize
Wild.
as much as I can, and then as my wife will always tell me, you forgot it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Okay. So, but that just comes with age. Things start to fall out of your head a little bit.
Yeah.
It happens now and then you have to try to remember yourself or remember stuff again. So
Yeah.
I think it's really cool what you have created as with the training. I think that is an amazing thing. I should bring my dog in here and get him to look at you and find out why he's so timid as a dog that he is. But what's one of the things that you would really pass on to other visually impaired blind people as advice?
I think really embracing all the things that you are able to do, and looking for your passion in that. That's something I talk about, kind of thriving on my vision of my work and passion and career, but also thriving on my vision, being able to accommodate and create something that, one, I'm extraordinarily passionate about, but two, I'm able to do in a comfortable way, where I can kind of control things to, in the way that I need them. My original career I have a degree in special education,
Right.
and going into the classroom every day, I loved it then, but I'm so grateful now that I really can adapt all of my work around my visual needs and have it be much more comfortable for myself. So I think finding what it is you love and creating something around that. For me, I always knew I was going to have to work from home. It's funny because when COVID hit, a lot of dog professionals are so used to going into homes and doing those things too. I had already been online for
Really?
many years.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. Lots of my consults are remote. In fact, almost all of them.
Okay.
Because, if I were to go to a client's house, it would mean my husband has to drive me.
Right.
My kids would all have to come along, and I'm there for an hour and a half. It was this whole big thing. So over time, I've kind of gradually moved my clientele to remote. and find it to be very effective, and actually in many ways more effective. So that switch was fairly easy for me because I've been doing so much online.
You were ahead of the game, because the rest of the world has had to already go, has had to go online and try to figure it out. So congratulations for that.
I had to make it work
There you
from
go.
not leaving my house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm pretty equipped for this time.
Good for you. That's awesome. Jennifer, anything else that you would like to mention before we let you go today?
No, I think just speaking up, it's one of the things that I'm learning to do, and is recognizing my own limitations and turning it around into a positive, and advocating for myself. Not always easy, but it's one of the things that, helps me thrive in what I do.
Excellent. And what's your company's website? Let's get that in here so people can go check it out.
Sure. It's familypaws.com. Paws as in dog paws.
As in pause. Excellent.
Yeah.
Jennifer, it has been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you very much for spending some time with us here on Blind Like Me. I wish you all the success going forward, and go get yourself a cane. It'll make life a lot easier for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Blind Like Me. If you have a comment or suggestion about future casts, drop us an email to blindlikeme@outlook.com. Blind Like Me is a TimBlackOnAir.com production.